Whisper Diaries. It's Natalie here, and tonight I'm whispering about something wonderfully disarming, those magical moments when humor creates an unexpected pathway to romance. You know what I'm talking about. That delightful surprise when you share a laugh with someone and suddenly feel a connection you weren't expecting. The kind of chemistry that emerges not from carefully constructed dating profiles or planned encounters, but from the authentic vulnerability of shared laughter. Those moments when comedy and chemistry intertwine to create something neither person saw coming. So get comfortable, perhaps wrap yourself in something cozy, and let me share some stories about those moments when humor sparked a romance that neither person was looking for, but somehow couldn't resist. Let's start with a story I'm calling the elevator pitch, which comes from my colleague Morgan. Like many stories of unexpected connection, this one begins with a completely ordinary situation turned extraordinary. Morgan had been working at her law firm for just 3 weeks when she found herself rushing to make a client meeting on the 27th floor. Already running late, she stepped into the crowded elevator, professionally dressed but slightly frazzled, clutching a coffee in one hand and balancing an overstuffed portfolio in the other. As the elevator began its ascent, the lights flickered once, twice. Then everything went dark as the elevator jolted to a stop. Emergency lights clicked on, casting everyone in a dim blue glow as collective groans filled the small space. Perfect. Absolutely perfect, Morgan muttered, checking her watch and calculating how late she'd be for her meeting. Don't worry, came a voice from the corner. I'm sure this is just part of the building's Get to Know Your Neighbors initiative. Morgan looked up to find a tall man in a charcoal suit offering a sympathetic smile. His comment broke the tense silence, earning a few chuckles from their fellow captives. Very effective program, Morgan replied, playing along. Though I would have preferred a coffee cart and name tags. Budget cuts, he shrugged, his eyes crinkling with amusement. I'm Alex, by the way. Marketing, 19th floor. Morgan, law, 27th. Or at least trying to get there. As minutes stretched into a half hour with no rescue in sight, the initial awkwardness of being trapped with strangers evolved into something surprisingly pleasant. Largely due to Alex's talent for finding humor in their predicament. When the building management announced through the emergency speaker that repairs would take approximately another hour, Alex organized an impromptu game of elevator confessions. Low stakes, he explained to their fellow captives. Something you'd never normally tell people at work. I'll start. I keep emergency chocolate bars taped under my desk, like a squirrel preparing for winter. The game loosened everyone up, with confessions ranging from, I pretend to take notes in meetings, but I'm actually making grocery lists, to I once wore my suit jacket inside out for an entire day, and no one mentioned it. When Morgan's turn came, she hesitated only briefly before admitting, I practice closing arguments in front of my bathroom mirror, while wearing a towel on my head like a judge's wig. The mental image made Alex laugh so genuinely that Morgan couldn't help but notice how it transformed his face. The way his eyes lit up, the slightly crooked nature of his smile. For the first time, she realized he was actually quite attractive, in a way that had nothing to do with his perfectly tailored suit. By the time maintenance finally restored power, nearly 2 hours later, Morgan had missed her meeting entirely, but had gained something unexpected, a genuine connection with a stranger who now felt like anything but. As the elevator doors opened at the 19th floor, Alex hesitated. "I have a strange question," he said. "Would you consider continuing this conversation over dinner sometime? I promise a table with significantly more square footage than this elevator." Morgan found herself smiling. "Only if you promise to share more of your workplace confessions. I have a feeling you are holding back the good ones." "Deal," he said, stepping off the elevator with a smile that suggested he'd just won something far more valuable than his freedom from the confined space. What began as an inconvenient delay became the beginning of a relationship built on shared humor. 6 months later, when Alex proposed, he did so in the same elevator, equipped with emergency chocolate bars and a tiny toy judge's wig. Sometimes the universe conspires to trap us in unexpected situations, only to show us that the person we're meant to connect with was just waiting for the right moment or the right power outage to appear. Our next story is The Stand-Up Situation, which explores how sometimes the best romantic connections form when we least expect them, often with an audience. My friend Zoe had never considered herself a comedy club person. She preferred quiet wine bars or bookstores for her evenings out. But when her roommate Alicia insisted they attend a local stand-up show to celebrate her birthday, Zoe reluctantly agreed. They arrived early, securing seats near the front, something Zoe immediately regretted when she realized how exposed they would be to potential performer interaction. While Alicia was thrilled with their prime location, Zoe slouched in her chair, hoping to become invisible. "This is going to be amazing," Alicia whispered excitedly. "Brendan Myers is supposedly the best new comic in the city. Just promise you won't volunteer me for anything," Zoe pleaded, sipping her overpriced cocktail and eyeing the small stage warily. The show began with 2 opening acts who were entertaining enough, though Zoe found herself more amused by the reactions of the man seated to her right than by the actual performers. He had an infectious laugh, not too loud or attention-seeking, but genuine and warm. Occasionally, she'd find herself laughing more at his reaction than at the jokes themselves. When the headliner finally took the stage, the energy in the room shifted. Brendan Myers was clearly skilled at his craft, building elaborate stories that had the audience hanging on every word. Zoe found herself relaxing, genuinely enjoying the performance despite her initial reluctance. Midway through his set, however, a heckler from the back corner began interrupting. At first, Brendan handled it professionally, incorporating the interruptions into his routine. But as the heckler became more persistent, the atmosphere in the room grew uncomfortable. "Do you think they'll kick him out?" Zoe whispered to Alicia. But before her friend could answer, the man to Zoe's right leaned over slightly. $10 says Brendan makes him part of the show within the next 2 minutes, he whispered conspiratorially. Sure enough, Brendan turned, his full attention to the heckler. "Sir, I notice you have a lot to say tonight. Why don't you come up and try it?" I'll even time you. You get exactly 60 seconds to make this audience laugh. The audience went silent as the heckler, clearly not expecting this challenge, stumbled his way to the stage. What followed was perhaps the most painfully awkward 60 seconds Zoe had ever witnessed. The heckler froze entirely, managing only to mumble, "So, airports, am I right?" before slinking off the stage to scattered pitying applause. The shared discomfort created an unexpected bond among the audience, particularly between Zoe and the man beside her. As they both cringed in unison, he caught her eye and whispered, "I think I owe those $10 to myself." The comment broke the tension, causing Zoe to burst into laughter that she tried desperately to stifle. The harder she tried to contain it, the worse it got, until tears were streaming down her face and her shoulders were shaking with silent laughter. Her reaction set him off too, and soon they were both struggling to compose themselves, drawing curious glances from surrounding tables as Brendan continued his set, oblivious to their private moment of connection. During the brief intermission that followed, the man turned to her properly. "I'm Daniel, by the way, and I feel like I should apologize for making you laugh during that poor guy's moment of complete humiliation. I'm Zoe, and don't apologize. I needed that release. I've been dreading this evening for weeks, but it's turning out to be much more entertaining than I expected." "Not a comedy fan?" Daniel asked, seeming genuinely curious rather than judgmental. "I wasn't," Zoe admitted, "but the company is making me reconsider." Their conversation flowed easily for the remainder of the intermission, discovering shared interests in obscure documentaries and a mutual dislike of olives in any form. When the show resumed, they continued exchanging whispered comments and suppressed laughter, creating their own private comedy show alongside the main performance. As the evening concluded, Zoe felt an unexpected disappointment at the thought of not seeing Daniel again. Gathering her courage, she turned to him as they prepared to leave. "This might sound strange, but would you want to continue this conversation somewhere quieter? Maybe grab coffee or a drink?" Daniel's smile lit up his entire face. "I was literally trying to figure out how to ask you the same thing without sounding like a creepy guy at a comedy club." They exchanged numbers and made plans for the following evening. Before they parted, Daniel added, "Full disclosure, I'm actually friends with Brendan. He comped my ticket, but I promise I had nothing to do with the heckler situation." "So you're saying our meet cute was entirely organic and not an elaborate setup?" Zoe laughed. "Completely authentic awkwardness," Daniel confirmed, "though I might owe Brendan a thank you. What began as a reluctant outing to a comedy club evolved into a relationship built on shared humor and the unique intimacy that comes from laughing together through an uncomfortable situation. Sometimes the people we connect with most authentically find us when we're least expecting it, often in the places we'd least expect to find them." Before I continue with our final story, I'd love to take a moment to connect with you. If you're enjoying these tales of humor sparking unexpected romance, I'd be so grateful if you'd rate this episode and leave a comment sharing your own experiences with laughter creating connection. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to receive notifications whenever a new Whisper Diaries drops. Your engagement helps our whispered community grow and helps me create more content that speaks to your experiences. Now, let's continue with our final story of humor, creating an unexpected bridge to romance. Our third story is the Autocorrect Catastrophe, which explores how sometimes our most mortifying technological mishaps can lead to our most genuine connections. My friend Jamie had been working at her marketing agency for just over a year when she was assigned to collaborate with Ryan from the design team. Though they worked for the same company, their departments were on different floors, and their interaction had been limited to brief exchanges during all staff meetings. Their collaboration began professionally enough, with emails and shared documents, as they worked on a rebranding project for a major client. Jamie was particularly conscious of making a good impression, as Ryan had a reputation for brilliant design work and exacting standards. One Thursday evening, Jamie was working late, finalizing copy for their presentation the following morning. Exhausted after a 14-hour day and running on nothing but coffee and determination, she sent what she thought was a professional update to Ryan with their revised timeline. What she didn't notice in her caffeine-addled state was that her phone had auto-corrected "I've attached the final copy for your review" to "I've attached the final copy for your sensual pleasure." She didn't discover the error until she received his reply 5 minutes later. "Thank you for the copy. I've never had document review described quite so provocatively before." Jamie stared at her phone in horror, scrolling up to confirm the mortifying mistake. Her face burned with embarrassment as she frantically typed an apology. "Oh my God. Review. For your review. I'm so sorry. I've been awake for approximately 900 hours, and my phone clearly has a more interesting life than I do." His response came quickly. "No apology necessary. To be honest, for your sensual pleasure has significantly increased my enthusiasm for reading. Client copy at 11 p.m. The exchange broke the formal dynamic they'd maintained, and Jamie found herself relieved by his good-humored response. The presentation the next morning went perfectly, their combined work impressing the client enough to expand the project's scope. As they packed up after the meeting, Ryan approached her. "I was wondering if you'd like to grab lunch to celebrate. I know a great place around the corner." During lunch, the conversation flowed easily, with Jamie's autocorrect disaster serving as an icebreaker that allowed them to skip the usual professional small talk. Ryan confessed his own workplace communication horror story, accidentally leaving his mic unmuted during a video call, while providing detailed commentary on his neighbor's unusual gardening attire. "I didn't realize until I noticed everyone on the call trying desperately not to laugh," he explained. "Our CEO had to excuse herself from the meeting, she was laughing so hard." Jamie found herself drawn to the contrast between Ryan's professional precision and his self-deprecating humor. What she'd initially mistaken for seriousness was actually thoughtfulness, and his ability to laugh at himself made his talent even more appealing. One lunch led to another, then coffee breaks, and eventually dinner outside of work hours. 3 weeks after the autocorrect incident, as they walked through the park after dinner, Ryan turned to her. "I have a somewhat unorthodox question," he said. "Would you consider this a date? Because I've been thinking of it that way, but I realized we never actually clarified." Jamie felt a smile spread across her face. I was hoping it was a date, but I wasn't sure if you were just really enthusiastic about work friend dinners. To be clear, Ryan said, taking her hand, I'm asking you out for your sensual pleasure, not just for your review, a callback to. Her embarrassing mistake made Jamie laugh, the shared humor creating a perfect moment for their first kiss. Sweet, slightly hesitant, and filled with the promise of more to come. What began as a mortifying autocorrect error evolved into a relationship built on authentic communication and shared laughter. Sometimes our most embarrassing moments become our most important ones, breaking down the walls of formality to reveal the genuine connection waiting on the other side. As I bring tonight's episode to a close, I hope these stories of romance kindled through humor have reminded you of those delightful moments in your own life. Times when shared laughter created an unexpected bridge, when comedic mishaps led to genuine connection, when the ability to find humor together revealed compatibility, more authentic than any carefully planned interaction could provide. Whether it's finding connection during an elevator breakdown, bonding over the shared discomfort of a heckler situation, or discovering romance through a mortifying autocorrect error. These moments of connection through humor often lead to our most meaningful relationships precisely because they reveal our authentic selves. Before we part ways tonight, I want to thank you for spending this time with me. If these stories of romance sparked through humor resonated with you, I'd love if you'd rate this episode and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. You can also consider buying me a coffee essay, way to let me know you want me to keep creating new episodes and sharing these stories with you. Remember to hit that bell icon to receive notifications whenever a new episode drops. Your engagement helps our whispered community grow and helps me create more content that speaks to your experiences. In our next episode, we'll explore new territories with fresh stories to both soothe and entice you. Got a relationship topic you're curious about? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one and love getting your suggestions. Thank you for listening to Whisper Diaries. This is Natalie, your guide through the often comedic pathways of unexpected romance, wishing you the freedom to find connection in your most unguarded moments of shared laughter. Until next time, sweet dreams, and may your own love story surprise you with the disarming power of humor to create the most authentic connections.